wore the same shoes. I know, I thought so too. Well, good morning. It's so great to be with all of you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are delighted to be together in person, and we're just going to jump right into it because we have an amazing panel that has a lot of insights that we're really excited to share with you today. And so we'll dive into kind of our conversation. We'll do a quick level set, and then we certainly will leave time at the end for questions. And so if there are things that you would love to hear more about, we're happy to answer those as well. But just a sincere thank you and welcome on behalf of the Downtown Council and all of our downtown partners. It feels really good to be together with people in person. We have been here. I know a lot of you have been here as well. If this is one of your first experiences back, we're glad that you're here. And I just want to say a special thank you to Hennepin Theater Trust for making this space available to us today. Hennepin Theater Trust is a great partner downtown. They have a big vision and mission and really care a lot about downtown and the arts experience. And so grateful to be here, grateful to be partnered with them. Just a couple of things that I want to shout out. We have a few events on the screen. Just so you know what's happening this summer, we will have a program next month that gives kind of a roundup of what's happening downtown this summer. It gives you insight around that. And so more to come on that, but we want you to know like a lot of the activations, the daily programming, the big events that you expect are coming again this summer, and so we're really looking forward to that and inviting people downtown. And then also, for those of you who don't know, sorry team, I'm just peeking around here. We are doing a lot of collective work around reanimation, and so we have companies and organizations across downtown, across the sectors, all really working together to support the reanimation of our downtown. And so we'll dive into kind of our collective journey on that work today. But just as a level set, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of some of our reanimation metrics. So we have been keeping a dashboard this whole time. I think one of the numbers, we're excited about all of them as we see this incremental build, but to have return of workforce up to 52.5% feels really good. And for those of you that are downtown, you certainly are starting to kind of see and feel some of that momentum. Skyways are a little busier. I hear all the time from people about how their lunch lines are much longer, and so that's a really good thing. And so we're excited about that and continuing to track those metrics, which you can find on our website. So encourage you to follow along there. And then without further ado, I want to get into introducing our panel and our conversation today. And we'll just kind of go from there. So I'm going to introduce each of you, and then I'll bring it back around for you to share a little bit more about your role, how you're kind of connected to our shared work, and then, of course, why you love downtown. So here, kind of sitting next to me and down, Adam Barrett, Vice President at Colliers, Danielle Lund, Director of Corporate Communications at the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx, Sarah Edwards, CEO of Some Great People, and then Superintendent Al Bangora from Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. So just an amazing group of panelists. And Al, maybe I'll start with you and we'll send it back this way to just share a little bit more about you and the work and why you love downtown.
Absolutely. Thanks for the introduction. I thought if I'd sit at the end, that would be anyways, it worked that way. But it's great to be here. Again, my name is Al Bangora. I'm the superintendent for the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. I've been here since, 19 years prior to Minneapolis, of course, within Park and Recreation. I left for a brief period of time, came back in 2019, January 19th, 2019. And it's really been an incredible privilege. I know Minneapolis incredibly well. I grew up here, and I'm just really excited to be connected to sort of this idea of reanimation of this space. When we look at our parks, I kind of call it like the bookends of downtown, right? You have the Mill City, you have the ruins, you have Loring Park, Elliott Park, the Commons, and so those parks are incredible spaces, and I know that it means a lot to the downtown area, and I love the city. I love being here, and one of the reasons I came back here was because of my personal experience growing up in Minneapolis and this incredible park system that we have and the wonderful people that are here. I remember times walking through the skyways and getting lost and just, exiting out somewhere and then kind of going, oh, this is interesting, and then looking around And it's a fascinating thing. It's an incredible city, and so just feel very fortunate to be part of this group and talk about the work we're going to be doing and the wonderful experiences people have that live, work, and play downtown. So, yeah. Is that okay?
Thanks, Al. That's perfect. Sarah.
Hi, my name's Sarah Edwards. I'm the CEO of Some Great People. We're a creative marketing agency, and I'm also the CEO of Fashion Week Minnesota, which I'll probably talk about a little bit. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I grew up in northern Minnesota, Grand Rapids, the Iron Range. Judy Garland's our claim to fame, with a yellow brick road dedicated to her. But anyway, growing up, I was always really into art and fashion and design and music and literally anything creative. And it was interesting because I always had it in my head that I had to move to New York or LA. So when it came time to graduate high school and think about what I wanted to do, I ended up going to University of North Dakota, which is like a little segue. But anyway, then when I was really thinking about what I wanted to do, you know, my mom's like, what about Minneapolis? And I'm like, well, I don't really know that much about it. And this was 17 years ago. And then I moved here and I just fell in love with it. And, you know, I like the outdoors too, which is really important to me. So I like that I had access to, you know, the lakes and the parks. And, but we had such a great design scene and restaurants and music and fashion and art. And I was just blown away. And that's actually how I started my career. I did this little event called Am Minneapolis. If anyone does events, you'll know that my budget was tiny because it was $250, which is hilarious when I think back to it. But I sold out the event the first year because it was all about celebrating the culture and the people. And that really inspired me to kind of continue to fall in love with this city. And I'm so passionate about connecting artists, people, community, and really helping people find their passion in our city. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle.
Hi everyone, Danielle Lund, Director of Corporate Communications with the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx. Originally from Hudson, Wisconsin, but I will say grew up being a passionate Minnesota sports fan. We would actually take our field trips to the Minnesota State Capitol, if that tells you anything. But love downtown, love the walkability. I walked down here just from Mayo Clinic Square, where our offices are. Both in and out. I think we're up to 11 miles of Skyway. So being able to kind of bebop anywhere around here.
Thanks, Danielle. Adam.
Hi, thank you, and thanks to everybody who joined us today. My name is Adam Barrett. Professionally, I work as a tenant representative, and what that basically means, I have to explain this to my mom this way, and I still, for the last, many years I've been in this. Essentially, I'm a residential real estate agent, but I do it for businesses. We negotiate office strategy and leases for businesses, predominantly downtown. And so that's my profession. I'm born and raised in Minneapolis, a K-12 MPS graduate. For the last 6 years, I served as board chair for the largest public high school in this city. Recently, in a very good way, handed off the reins to somebody else, and I'm proud of that. My first job, actually, and my sister was with MPRB, the Minneapolis Park and Rec Board. We used to grow up around Pearl Park, ride our bikes around, play tennis, played sports. Pick up tennis. We put the baseball cards in the spokes of our bikes and rode around Todd Park and Pearl Park. And so Minneapolis, like I said, it's been everything to me. And downtown, I still live downtown. Not only do I work down here and represent businesses down here, I live down here. Love walking the Stone Arch often. Love bringing friends and others out to dinner, the entertainment. And quite honestly, the vibrancy and the energy that is associated with just getting out and seeing all these people from different walks of life and from different businesses coming together and walking through the Skyway or the farmers market. It's really an invigorating place to be that, I'm excited to be a part of what you are working on through the Downtown Council and seeing it return to, its pre-pandemic energy.
Thanks so much. Well, as we talk about our collective journey today, I'm a big believer that all journeys are not linear, right? And if you have been on our journey together downtown, it has been anything but circular, backwards, forwards, repeat, whatever that is. But what's important is that we're collectively working towards impact together. And so I would love for each of you to share kind of from your lens as we are all on this journey together to support Minneapolis downtown reanimation. Help us understand that collective journey through your lens and briefly share kind of with us your journey as it relates to, kind of a specific audience I'm going to give each of you. So Al, we'll start with you again. And, you know, so much of your work and frankly, a lot of the strength of downtown over the past couple of years has been our resident base, right? And so we're grateful for them. You do a ton of work with residents and with youth. And so we'd just love to hear a little bit of the landscape of the collective journey there.
Sure. I'm the only one who has notes up here, by the way, so, but you're right. I don't stray too far. But I think that there's twofold. I think that the park system, as we know, I mean, Minneapolis has been ranked one of the best park systems in the country, and very proud of that. And it's a mantle that we hold very dear because we're a unique organization and we are an independent body, which is really unique. So when I tell people that they, you know, that the people, all you, own this park system, it truly is a very unique thing. We're not under the city or, you know, a county or conservancy. It's the Minneapolis Park Recreation Board, and so I always say that that's an incredible, incredible gift to have. And so one of the things that we're very clear about is the stewarding of this land and what it means to that. You know, the history of this park system from 1883, 139 years of history of this park system that the people own. And we continue to do whatever we can to not only acquire land, to provide space for people to enjoy the North Loop. As you know, the parking lot there is going to be a park, which is really exciting. I mean, and how often in any cities or places that you continue to expand land and actually have parks that people need and desire as they develop into the city, and they would like a place to go to and walk their dog or just hang out. And so we take very seriously the stewardship of our land. And as you know, we have the Commons, we have the Sculpture Garden, we have places like the North Loop that we're doing, of course, Elliott Park, which is right, again, I call it the bookends of the city. And also activating these spaces and reimagining what these spaces will look like. I'm very excited to think about the possibilities that we have right now in the Commons or Elliott or you know, as you look around a lot of our parks, how we can really engage people to come play and visit and share and just to kind of come out in these open spaces and what it meant for people during this last 3 years. I will say this, in a way, like I look at sometimes the most diverse times sort of as an opportunity. Because that's how if you rethink about what you do and what you provide. We look at everything through an equity lens. Minneapolis has been very unique. The park board has been very unique. We've been leading the country in how we look at our park system through an equity lens. But the really great thing about it is that it makes you rethink how you're going to provide the services for our community. And that's what really excites me right now is, you know, the work that we're going to be doing, what inspires us, how do we provide services around this area, you know, in our parks, the activities we provide, sitting on a blanket underneath the stars, watching a movie, right? Just really basic things. So that's really exciting, and I think that's the approach we're taking right now, is that responsibility to how we can provide those services for the owners of the park to make sure it's a great experience that you have when you come to it. So, yeah.
Thanks, Al. Sarah, I love what Al was saying about kind of human experience, right? And creating those experiences. Talk to us a little bit more, you know, in the work that you do about the people and kind of to give us that lens of the collective journey.
Yeah, I think a lot about this. You know, the past few years, we've all been going through a ton of change in every aspect of our life. So there's not kind of a one-size-fits-all approach to any of this. And I think that there is an opportunity to rethink and really reshape how we connect with people. It's interesting because, so with Fashion Week Minnesota coming up, we have 10 different events. And they're already sold out. There's like maybe a few tickets left for a couple of them. And I think what that tells me is that people are craving connection. They're craving community. They're also probably craving an opportunity to get out of leggings or sweatpants at home and get dressed up again. But it's really cool to see. And I think that one thing I've really been thinking a lot about is you have to talk with people and have conversations with people and not talk at people. And you have to just do so much listening. I think that's like one of the biggest things I've learned is we just really, really need to take time to listen because people just want to be a part of it. They don't want to be told what to do or how to think or what to do. They want to give their feedback. They want to share and really feel like they're a part of the movement and a part of creating the culture and a part of creating the community. So I think the more we can create spaces for people to have a platform to share their art, or their ideas or their business, and make space for more people to do that. And I think as it relates to downtown specifically, I think that we have a collected responsibility to really have conversations online, offline, with our family members, just ask a lot of questions, and kind of get to the core of maybe what people are thinking or where they're at. And I think that, we're not just fighting with other neighborhoods or people spending time otherwhere. It's really people's time. I think one thing that the pandemic taught us is that time is so precious and valuable. So if I'm going to give you my time or my energy, it better be a really worthwhile experience, which I think is good that we reset a little bit and maybe spent more time. Like my husband and I would sit outside and play Scrabble. And you know what I mean? We never did stuff like that. So I think slowing down is good. And so I think if we can really think about where people are at and meet them there and create really fun environments full of vibrancy, and I think that there's so much happening and it's really exciting. So we have to do that in a way that comes across, I hate this word because it gets overused and I feel like advertising always ruins words, but authentic. And I think being vulnerable that we don't have all of the answers, but we are curious to figure out solutions collectively.
Sarah, you talk a lot about invitations and inviting people to be a part of something. We have done a lot of intentional invitations to downtown, and Danielle, the Timberwolves are maybe giving us the biggest invitation to invite people back downtown with playoff games coming up this week. Talk to us a little bit about, a collective journey from the visitor fan experience.
Definitely, yeah. Sarah came correct today wearing our City Edition jersey. Certainly, for us, these last 2 years have been all about welcoming back our fans safely. And as you said, first round playoffs, we won't talk about last night, but we got game 3, and tomorrow is going to be absolutely electric. And so to Sarah's point, I think just about craving that community, we really are seeing that with our fans. They're ready to, hug the stranger next to them, to be cheering loudly. Lynx training camp kicked off on Sunday, so we actually have both our franchises going right now, which is an absolute wonderful feeling to have back in Target Center again.
Yeah. Adam, so we know downtown has 5 very distinct neighborhoods, but we know some of our neighborhoods downtown not only rely on residents, they rely heavily on employees. So talk to us a little bit about the collective journey with employees downtown and employers, and kind of what we've been experiencing and where we're heading.
Yeah, of course. So I think you said earlier that nothing is linear, but I would like to emphasize too. I think everything that's been set up here is interconnected, right? Every experience, and to be incredibly frank, downtown is the livelihood for many people, myself included. The security staff at the front of buildings, the janitorial staff or custodial staff, the waiters, the waitresses, the chefs. We have so many people who rely upon downtown for their livelihoods. And that contributes as well, I think, throughout the pandemic to a lot of the mental health barriers that we face, not solely the isolation and the compounding fear, but there is the very fiscal reality of the pulse of downtown and what that means. And so, yes, you're right, there are many different neighborhoods. But I think at the end of the day, what we have to remember at a more micro level, people rely upon downtown to grow themselves, to grow their families financially. At a more macro level, downtown is the heartbeat of our state's economy. Hennepin County it collects more taxes in the state of Minnesota than any other county. Minneapolis provides the bulk of those taxes and receives a lot less from the state than it gives to the state. And so the entire state and the livelihoods of many people resulting from Minneapolis, the livelihoods of many people result on the success of Minneapolis. And I think that there are many business leaders who recognize that. And to give you a specific example, throughout the last 2.5 years, I'm not an expert on safety and security. I don't think any of us really are. And we turn to our leaders in the city, to the police department, and I think that we want a solution that is equitable, but that does provide our workers in downtown and as well as across Minneapolis, because it's not just downtown, a feeling of safety. So collectively, there are many commercial real estate leaders, from institutional investors to people like me, representatives, to neighborhood leaders that have for the last couple of years engaged our city council in collaborative dialogue, trying to learn, trying to understand, trying to find out how we could have that both and approach that I think many of us heard during the last campaign cycle. We want both the equitable advancement of our department and public safety. And we have seen a collective effort, something that I don't think anybody in this room would have ever seen prior to, very frankly, the murder of George Floyd, when it was a real eye-opening moment. And I think that there truly is, where it wouldn't have been before, a recognition and acknowledgement that we have a lot of changes that need to be made, and questions being asked that wouldn't be asked before, and discussions about equity that would not have occurred before. But it's all with the hope that we can collectively move forward, ensure our workers' safety, and advance the lives of everybody in this city, from workers to residents to visitors, because that's when we all succeed.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Really important points in there, and I think I'm going to throw it back to you, and then we can kind of just run down the line here. But, you know, you said something in the last couple of years of how maybe it's more apparent now to some folks about the success of downtown is interrelated to so many experiences that people have, right? And it's related to the success of our county, of our region. So I'd love to hear, you know, as you're out doing your work, how are you championing downtown? And not what was, but the downtown that we're all hoping emerges from this as we move forward together.
Yeah, you know, so I don't want to make this more complicated than it should be, but, you know, my role as a legal fiduciary is to, you know, listen to my client and guide them to what they want. Now, excuse me, that being said, if I'm taking a very impartial look at the suburban, you know, real estate market, commercial real estate office market compared to downtown Minneapolis, there are some very real and objective differentiating factors that I can say. And so let's talk first functionally. Functionally speaking, downtown Minneapolis has amenities that far surpass just about any other suburban office, and that would include, in a lot of our office buildings, conference areas, golf simulators, you know, coffee stands, I don't know if it's fitness centers. I mean, things like that suburban offices have tried to incorporate, but nowhere near the level of investment that our buildings downtown have made. So that's a frank reality that I think, you know, when you're looking at it from an office tenant perspective, that's cost savings. If you say, you know what, I don't need that conference room because we have one here, that can, you know, that's common area that we can reserve, that's going to be cost savings. Functionally as well, downtown Minneapolis has many more places to dine. If you are a business person looking for a happy hour or a dinner, et cetera, you know, if I'm going on a business dinner, I'd rather not go to Arby's or Chick-fil-A. You know, I'm going to take them to someplace nice downtown for lunch. And you know, that's more of a functional reality. Financially speaking right now, there is a stark difference, and I imagine this is going to continue for the next 2 to 3 years, if not maybe a little bit longer. Landlords downtown right now are being more aggressive than any suburban landlord from a cost standpoint. And again, I don't want to overcomplicate this, because even people in companies who work with us on real estate, they really hate it and they don't want to talk about it. But if you look at suburban, I'll just use a very general round number example. Let's say you're going to a suburban office. You may expect to pay, I don't know, $23 to $24 per square foot per year. Okay, so let's just use that. Downtown average Class A building might be about $18 right now. So that's a $6 savings, right? $6 savings per square foot per year. If you were to say this is a $10,000 or 10,000 square foot space, that's a savings of $60,000 a year. Plus, landlords downtown are giving a lot more money to tenant improvement allowances. So when you build out your space, you are given upfront an allocation of money to build it out according to what you want. It is significant. But pre-pandemic, it was about $6 per square foot per year. Now we're seeing over 10 in some instances. In the suburbs, they're staying at right around that $6 to $7 number. So there's a lot of financial enticement as well for business leaders to say, wow, you know, when all is said and done, downtown looks like a pretty good place. Now, I'd be remiss, and I know I just one more thing. The weakness that downtown does have, as we hear, and I want to be very honest about this, isn't actually, safety and security is talked about, but we see many improvements as more people come back. It is parking. And so I think that it's incumbent upon landlords. There are parking systems, like actual computer systems. We have now advanced to Zoom and to Teams, but there are still some archaic models out there, and one of them is our parking systems. What could be done, and it's been done in buildings in the North Loop, is let's say you're a business with 100 workers, right? And you know you're going to be hybrid. All those workers don't need parking passes. So what you can do is put a new parking system in place that says we're going to buy 30 passes, but we're going to give everybody in our place a pass, right? But we know from a logistics standpoint that if we exceed those 30 passes in that day, they're just going to have to take a ticket, and we'll figure it out. Right now in downtown, and I can't think of one downtown that has changed this, if you want parking spaces for all your workers, each person is going to have to do that. Now, on a worker standpoint, an average of about $300 per month for parking, and some of them are higher, some are lower, that's a big cost burden. So I really do think, as we're thinking about innovation, the onus doesn't solely fall upon government supporting businesses. That's important too. But it really is innovation across the board. And I think our institutional investors need to start pushing their parking lots to start instituting these systems, because other things are advancing, hybrid is advancing, therefore we need to embrace it and figure out how to make it work. So I'm off my pedestal.
No, I love it. I love it. Anything we can do to continue to encourage employees to come back downtown is good, and it's great to see the investment that landlords and employers are making. Love the innovative thinking about parking. I would be remiss if I didn't say the city did push out a parking program where you can park at any of their 12 ramps for $6, and it's the same card, and you prepay it, and you go in and out. So, not that it's a one-size-fits-all, but hopefully we are inspiring people to think more innovatively, because I think as workers come back, we have to. Danielle, tell us a little bit about, how the Timberwolves Lynx organization is kind of championing downtown into this next season.
First, I'll say there is a time and a place for Arby's.
Curly fries.
That's what I took from that. Yeah, and Chick-fil-A. But, certainly for us, we've been back in the office since last fall, and we really are, have been able to witness firsthand, that slow reanimation. Every day that we're in the Skyway, there's more foot traffic. There are the longer lines. There's, where are we going to go for lunch tomorrow, the next day, finding those opportunities, right, to be downtown actively. With obviously the recent success of the Wolves, we are absolutely encouraging our fans to come downtown early, patron the heck out of these bars and restaurants, right? Whether that's you're going to be in Target Center or you're going to be at a watch party. So that's something, that we feel really, really good about, and come Saturday with the 9 p.m. tip, I think downtown will be blasted, at an absolute blast. I don't know.
I love that. And Danielle, you mentioned to me earlier, and patio season is upon us, so that's always a good thing too. Sarah and Al, I might switch it up a little bit for the two of you and just kind of talk a little bit about collective urban experiences. We know that they are so important to our downtown journey. We know that you cannot get collective urban experiences anywhere else, right? You got to come downtown for those. And so talk to us a little bit about how you've been experiencing that journey within your organizations and what you see as we kind of get closer to spring and summer.
Yeah. So with Some Great People, a lot of times we're hired to literally activate spaces, create community, create culture, tell stories. And so, as it relates to downtown, I think one thing we have to remember too is we talk a lot about businesses and stuff, but there's people behind them. And I think the more we can really think about the people, my first job in Minneapolis actually was at Glick's Bar and Restaurant, which is a local family-owned restaurant. They have the best walleye sandwich in Minneapolis. But I think that, when I've been thinking a lot about this, is that that's one, family who's been going through this whole thing. And so it's so fun to see, the Timberwolves, winning and all the people downtown. But I think, it's really about connecting people to these opportunities. And so that's kind of what we've been doing is oh, you're planning, you know, an event. Have you considered having it at the W Hotel? Or have you considered, you know, this or that? I think that I've been talking about this a lot lately. I get called an influencer a lot, and I know that word makes everyone cringe, and it makes me cringe, but I've been trying to lean into more of a connector. I really like to just connect people, ideas, brands, businesses, kind of around a common goal and values. And so what we've been really doing is just being connectors of the city and really just trying to champion downtown and create those opportunities. And again, going back to listening to what they're trying to do, whether it be creating an experience or an event or, you know, entertaining family that's in town, and really just getting people excited, you know, because people feed off of energy. And if you're excited and energetic talking about something, they'll want that energy too. So that's kind of what we've been doing. And then with Fashion Week Minnesota too, just building relationships with a lot of the partners and the venues, again, with all of the beautiful spaces we have here. And I will say all of the companies that we've been working with have been incredible. And I think they're excited too. You know, they want to see people out and energized in their spaces. So, you know, I think the number one thing we can all do is just be, you know, connectors, and connect over influence, I've been saying, is important.
Well said. Yeah, for us, I'm gonna go back to one thing that I did mention. If you think about the last 3 years, and you know, we can go through all of the challenges that we've had, the one places that people went to were the parks. I mean, that was the space that people went to, whether they're gonna go there to activate, to heal, to exercise. The well-being and the health of the city is its park system. My job was made, and I go back to what I said before, this understanding of during these really challenging times, as now I talk about the park system, it changes people's perspective of really what it means to them and how they advocate for it and how they connect with it. And that's a very powerful thing. And I know in our practice as practitioners in the park systems across the country, you start to see more of the federal dollars, things that people realize and recognize the importance of the well-being of a city and what it means to its people and what it means to the downtown area. When I talk to the bookend parks that are around here, I talk about spaces that we're going to really think about how we reimagine and how we think about activating those spaces and making sure that we really are reaching the people that we need to have come into the downtown area to connect in some really exciting opportunities. So this collaborative work with community and working with businesses and being up here today, talking to Melvin Tennant from Lips Meets, you know, whoever, what we can do to really reach people, to really provide very welcoming and exciting spaces that people can really enjoy. I'm excited about the possibilities of what we can do within these parks, and it's limitless. And so we hear from all of you what you would like to see, what you want to hear, whether it's music concerts, movie concerts, whether it's food trucks, activities. We have pop-up park things that we do. When we think about the Commons, right? But let me just talk about Waterworks, right? This amazing restaurant in this beautiful place off the river, right? An indigenous restaurant, Awamini, that's getting the James, well, didn't get it yet, I hope they get it, the James Beard Award. We just got an architecture award for the landscaping in that space. We talk about Loring Park and how we're putting new tennis courts in there, a new playground system. We're rehabilitating and developing these spaces to really get people engaged, to come back to really experience the wonderful park systems that we have. And it's really looking at activating those spaces. Part of it too is sort of this collaborative work that we do. Like right now we're talking to McPhail, for example, the Mississippi Watershed Organization, and how we can work with them. And just talk with partners. I think another one I had down here was the Mill City Museum, right? So as we start to think about our collective experiences and how we can work together, we can't go forward unless we truly are connected. And that's just the reality. And everything that I do, it's always about these partnerships. It's how we, ideas and innovation and ideas that are uniquely different that you might not have thought before, but now we're thinking about it because you just can't go it alone. We truly believe in this community piece that we talk about every day, how we experience the trauma and we experience the joy and things that we as a city have gone through the last 3 years. And to be very honest with you, like when we shut down 21 miles of parkways, the unique independence of who we are to be able to create these spaces, it really is incredible to think about also our regional park systems. We have probably about anywhere from 20 to 30 million people that come to our parks. It's massive. Our parks are loved to death, right? They love it. I think the Mall of America had us on the most visited location. I think Benet-McCosco. I think Benet-McCosco now is probably ahead of that. But think about the spaces that what this city means to the well-being and the health of our city is critical. And sometimes, like sitting in front of you all today, to talk about this importance and this responsibility of this jewel of a park system we have and what it means to all of us, I would always encourage the advocacy, the relationship. Let us know what you need. Let us know what we can do to provide these services for you all, because that's who we are. We're public servants, and we serve all of you. So, yeah, and I think the vibrancy and how we're putting new structures and new places, that's all enhances the downtown area and the experiences we have. I mean, it's an incredible thing. So, yeah, that we're continuing to keep working on that for all of you, for the residents. So.
Yeah, well, Al, your partnership and the work of the Park Board has been great, especially these last couple of years, to keep some of our events moving forward in park spaces. So thank you for that. RTA, to quote you, we are a city in a park, right? And so love that. And I think especially during the pandemic, to be able to still get out and have these spaces to connect, to be together, to heal. We heard a lot about meetings in those spaces. Quick plug, we do have a health and wellness guide that we pushed out within the last few months with Erica Jones that highlights a lot of the great park spaces and green spaces throughout downtown. So you can find that on Instagram or at mplsdowntown.com.
One quick thing to add to what you were just saying, I think that is really notable and deserves emphasis, is that the Minneapolis parks, for the most part, are free to use. If you want to go swimming in Lake Harriet, you may pay, 50 cents or a quarter in every half hour, something to park. I remember as a kid going to Bush Lake in Bloomington, and my parents say, how is this, $7 for us to just enter and swim or whatever? I mean, and it is important when we have things like the sculpture garden or like the rose garden at Lake Harriet. I mean, the investments in our playgrounds and our pools. There's no cost to go and use our pools in the summer for our kids. And so, I mean, I think that is a real differentiating factor, and something that if we do talk about equity, that is kind of the epitome of equity. And I think it's really important to emphasize that fact as well.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I think this year we did the ACP, the Areas of Concentrated Poverty, and the ACP 50. And if you look at our resolution that we did, I think was it almost 17 parks or so that are free. Already at those parks, we weren't charging really nothing. But what we did was we wanted to make a stand to say, from an equity lens, for free swim lessons, for free use of programs, that the barrier that people might feel, even if we had scholarships and donations and stuff, and no child is turned away from any of our parks. What we wanted to do is to make the statement that it's free, so that there's no concerns. Now, we have the scholarship program, which we put out there for all of our youth. And it's funny because they're not really using it very much, because we already were doing such an incredible job of getting people into our parks to use our facilities and our spaces. And that was really very important for us. And there's many other things that we can talk about. But yeah, thank you for saying that, because the importance of that is great.
Yeah, it's a great point. Danielle, let's maybe start with you. I think, as we see in our research, people are so hopeful and so excited for summer, right? Sarah, you mentioned kind of this idea of like being connected again, right? And so we're seeing kind of signals with warmer weather and patio season and Twins baseball and all of those things, more excitement to come back to the office, come back to events. However, we do know that we continue to battle what Steve Kramer, our president and CEO, will say is an outsized perception, right? That's not to say there aren't realities that we deal with, and we are dealing with those. We are working together. Those are a journey and part of our journey. But as we think about kind of this difference, we hear a lot too of like, well, it maybe wasn't what it was in 2019, but it's way better than I expected. It's different, it's good. Talk to us a little bit about what you all are doing and kind of what you want people to know about your experiences downtown to kind of help with some of that maybe misperception.
Yeah, I think for us, like you said, it's perception or reality. And so when they are coming down to a game, it's basically, you have one opportunity to make sure that experience is great. And I'm sure some of others up here can attest to that as well. So, for us, it's making sure that they understand that it is safe. And so when they come down, that ingress and egress for them is very easy to get in and out. We have a lot of people, our action pack in the Skyways that are helping with that. You have noticeable wayfinding and signage and things of that nature as well. So for us, I think on the front end, it's all about the education of knowing, being prepared to come downtown. And then when you are here, you are having that great experience. And so once you have that first one, then you're coming back. And then hopefully, it's a snowball effect and you're coming down for maybe even like a full weekend, right? So you're catching a Lynx game and a Twins game. You're going to the theater. So that's really something that we're trying to champion.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. Adam, what about you, from your perspective on perception versus reality?
Well, the thing is, and I guess I've learned this the hard way, especially leading when I led the board or the board for the largest public high school. I've accepted perception is reality. And there is absolutely, until you experience it differently, until you have a different experience, that perception is going to remain your reality. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's the same reason that I can have, friends across the political divide. I see them for who they are and really don't judge. But so to answer your question specifically, what I do is I make a point to go out and experience and encourage others too. If I have clients that may be pushing to go out to the suburbs for a happy hour or dinner, I'm going to push for downtown Minneapolis for that. So that experience, because I know the experience is going to be damn fun. It's probably going to be more fun than the suburbs, to be very frank. We have a lot more creative restaurants. One place, and I'm not doing just a random plug here, they're not my client, but if I take somebody to Billy Sushi in the North Loop, I'm telling you, they're like, that time is incredible. Spoon and Stable. Last night I just brought a client out to Butcher's Tail. I still have meat sweats, and I'm sorry if that's showing here. But no, look, if we're going to change perception, we have to get people to have those good experiences. I think the staunch reality is moving forward in the summertime. We have so much opportunity to really get people out and about, especially during the day, especially during the work hours. But the reality is, across every urban area in the entire country, there will be an increase in crime. That happens every summer. That's a reality. And what we have to do is ensure that the positive messaging can just overcome what is going to be the headline in the newspaper. And that's not an easy thing to do. And so, this is an uphill climb no matter how we look at it. But I think the more that those who believe in downtown and in Minneapolis can bring those who may perceive it very differently, encourage them to just come out and experience it for a night. I'm fortunate. I live at the Carlisle. And so I have some friends that really do not like to come downtown Minneapolis. If I can just baby step them in there, say, do you want to come up to my amenity deck, have a barbecue, go to the pool with the kids? That's the first step in the right direction. Then that leads to the Billy Sushi date, a little bit down the road. But it is, that's, to those who believe in it, it's getting people down here to experience the good, and then the perceptions will change. That will become the new reality.
Yeah, Adam, I think that's such a good point. All of our research says that too, like you have to experience it for yourself. Al, do you want to jump in on that a little bit?
Yeah, come to a park. Get us to the park. Yeah, it's simple. I think we talked about this before. A lot of this is really just, as I mentioned before, so I kind of call parks sort of the extension of your living room. It's this space that you can go to and put a blanket out, or you can watch a movie, or you can go to the food trucks. You can listen to music. There's so many artists that are out here that would literally kill to perform out there for the general public just to be at a park. We have space where we see artists all the time performing out there in our spaces. They always contact us. So safety, in reality, like I know this for a fact. You can put a squad car into a park or any space, and they could sit there all day and think that is safe. It's not true. The reality is the people. It's when you engage and you activate in those spaces, when you have your family down there, when you have your coworkers and you have your friends and people that are part of your community, because that's the advocacy of it. It's the eyes that are on that space. It's being in that place together. That's community. This is what I look at for the downtown area in our parks. That's we want you to come out there and experience the things that we're going to be providing, because the safety or the activation of it or the ownership of it is people. And that is what truly, really makes your space feel alive, you know? And my role, and what I'm going to continue to try to do, is to get as many youth out into our spaces, to connect them to our parks, to really look at our equity lens to make sure that we're providing services and opportunities that reflect our community today. And that people are out here experiencing something so unique. And I always say the memories that we have a lot of times are the collective experiences we have together. The most powerful moments come around those times. And parks and spaces, as we all, I'm sure, have visited parks, sometimes you're in your own world, your own space, but the people that are around you and the people you see, the diverse people that you see around you and are experiencing here, kids laughing and riding their bikes and sitting down, people playing, that's something that becomes so normal that you don't necessarily realize it, but you had a wonderful time. So for me, it's coming down to these spaces and enjoying them and being present, and don't be afraid, because you know, that fear that you have in there is simply because if you let a place just remain empty, something will find its space in there. But if you own it and you go to it and you experience it and you're there with your community, unlimited things can happen. And it's crazy how the innovation and ideas come out of those spaces, because the people that are there will reach out to any one of us and they'll say, why don't you guys do this? What about this? Isn't that amazing? Like, you know, and that's what's exciting for me as a professional, is hearing from you all and what you want to see happen. And then it becomes natural. It's owned by you, it's running, and it never goes away. I could leave, you know, in 5 years, whatever it is, I hope I stay longer, but I could leave, right? Or anybody can leave a space. But when the community owns it, it never changes, because the person that walks in, they say, you're going to do this for our community. You're not, I don't care what you think your idea is, as long as it's good, but this is our space. This is what we want to see happen. And that's community, and that's what I see for this downtown area. So encourage you to come out and enjoy our spaces.
Yeah, I love that. Al, we often, when we talk about downtown vibrancy, we talk about just that. We like to say the best part is you, right?
Yes.
Meaning the people
It's
in the
people.
space, right?
Yeah.
And so, Sarah, maybe I'll throw a different question your way, but just talk to us a little bit about why, you know, riff off what Al was saying about why people are so important to our collective journey downtown.
Yeah, I was nodding a lot with everything you were saying, because I relate to one thing that I think is cool is we have a very creative community. Like, we have so many creative people here. And I think that there's a lot of ideas too. So I think one thing that we could do is create more access for people to execute these creative ideas. We did kind of an experiment, if you will, where we took our space, which is over in the Mill District, and we posted a nice photo of it, and we said, hey, if we could give you our space for a day, like, what would you do with it? Just, I had no idea. One person could have responded or whatever, but we had 140 messages of people saying, like, all of these ideas, like, I want to host this donation drive, I want to do this yoga fundraiser, I want to do this, that, and the other thing. So I was like, how could we create more spaces? And I know that there's a cost with everything and logistics and all of that fun stuff, but I think if we could inspire people to, hey, if you had access to the space, like, what would you like to see here? You know, could it move around? So I think we could really connect to the creative community in a deeper way and kind of create those opportunities to activate space. And I think, again, what you were saying too, it really is about experiencing it. I think once you come downtown and you have a positive experience, and then maybe you bring more people, I'm not talking about like an MLM scheme, but maybe some sort of like a Tupperware party. No, but really truly, like, the more people can, you know, be advocates of bringing people downtown and having that experience, because unfortunately sometimes we are fighting the perception. You know, I talk a lot to my family's in northern Minnesota, and they watch the news. They're, what's going on downtown? So I always have to be having these hard conversations with them and really educating them and literally taking them downtown, having a positive experience, sharing a fun, joyful moment. So I think that is at the heart of it, is people experiencing it, and we can talk and talk and talk about it, but we have to collectively continue to bring people downtown for all of these incredible experiences and connect with the community. And it's so important that the vibrancy of Minneapolis is positive, and that we're sharing and we're being honest too. I think that's important too. Whenever you're too, you know, oh, everything's great and amazing, people are like, So I think it's important to be like, we're not there yet, but we're curious. Like, what are your thoughts on this? You know, we'd love to hear from you. And again, bringing them along in that journey is so important.
Thanks, Sarah. Danielle and Adam, for the two of you, I think, you know, as we continue to move through our collective journey, we are welcoming increasing vibrancy to downtown. Talk a little bit about what this means for the downtown ecosystem and more broadly our region.
You know, I think if I'm going to take it solely from a lens of businesses and office users and retailers, you know, I think there are some crystal clear points. The more, and we've been told this by our government as well as our police department over and over again, you know, what we have seen on the streets for the most part, as far as, you know, some people that may be having some issues, have always been there, but typically they're drowned out by crowds of people. And so it's sort of a catch-22 here, right? We've got this idea, this perception that downtown's not safe because some of what we're seeing is just it's much clearer now, right? And so that creates this fear. But the more people that we have, the more safety just inherently occurs. I mean, that is something that is just a factual statement. The more people in an area, the less, you know, crime that's going to occur. And, you know, that's something that the police department has said, you know, as we look very frankly at an MPD that's depleted in officers that we're rebuilding, you know, it's going to take a collective action on our parts across all parts of the city to just, you know, really start, you know, rebuilding together. And I think that as we see more vibrancy downtown, especially, I know that we're going to see this soon. I can tell you without telling you who it is, there's going to be a big announcement very soon of a new business that is coming from the suburbs to the downtown core because of what the downtown core has to offer that their suburban location did not have. That's going to be a very exciting announcement. And I think it's something that will probably be a catalyst for more suburban offices to take a peek at downtown Minneapolis. That will also probably, very frankly, be a catalyst for more retailers to feel comfortable opening during lunch, which right now we don't have as many. More Skyway businesses signing into the Skyway. I mean, very frankly, the Skyway right now is kind of a ghost town. Not because there aren't people walking, but because many retailers closed during the pandemic. And so the more incremental steps that we can make to bring workers and people back, even if it's, you know, on a hybrid schedule, you know, if every Thursday, because of the farmers market, that's the most people downtown, great. You know, we are going to have more vendors, more retailers enter into that ecosystem, which will create, again, this inherent vibrancy and this evolution. It's probably going to act as a catapult for more institutional investors, meaning building owners, to seek innovative ways to improve their buildings from a competition standpoint. We know that there are some right now developers pitching Class A plus buildings, very nice buildings downtown Minneapolis. And that is the reason for that is they believe larger users are going to seek a flight to quality because of the employment market right now is so competitive that businesses, think law firms, big law firms, right? They're going to have a differentiating factor as they try to entice, you know, in this very competitive labor market, the top attorneys to their businesses. And if they can be in a, you know, premier space as part of the attraction. So look, I think the moral of the story here is this is a chance for a new beginning. And I have a lot of confidence knowing what the discussions are in the background of the market, that this is an opportunity for just like a springtime rebirth, without being, you know, too allegorical here. I really do see this as an opportunity to assess and rebuild much better. And I think that in my discussions with business leaders, we are going to see many more office workers return to the office in the next month or two.
Yeah, that's really encouraging, Adam. It's been great to see incremental build kind of all along, and so that's great. Danielle, I mean,
when you talk about, you know, the ecosystem, I think it actually goes back to your previous question about the you, right? So it's the people that are downtown. We know, you know, when there is a Wolves game, O'Donovan's, Kieran's, all the nearby bars and restaurants are probably having, you know, their best night that they have had in 2-3 years, right? You know, they're seeing some of them upwards, like triple the business. So that for us is something, you know, that we hope to sustain. And we know that, you know, every time there's a game, Wolves or Lynx, that those nearby businesses are automatically getting that immediate, you know, shot in the arm.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and downtown is the lens through which people see our region, right? And so having a team that's playing so well right now and those great shots, whether you're watching on TV or you're here in person, is really fantastic. Well, I want to be mindful of time, and hopefully we'll have time for a question. But I think the one thing that I would love, and maybe we'll just go Adam to Al here down the row, but I would love, we have a room full of champions, people who believe in the power of downtown, people who believe in downtown as a place to come together and connect and build community, and spur innovation and these collective urban experiences. And so I would love for each of you to just share, what can this group do as we journey together towards collective impact from your perspective?
I get to start this one. I'm just going to return to what we all, I think, agreed upon earlier. And sorry, because I think this is the easy answer. So good luck finding a new one. But it is encourage the experience. Encourage, your friends and others to experience it. And, whether that be bringing them down to a Twins game, or if you're lucky enough to get playoff tickets, or for the Timberwolves, or to a restaurant, or heck, even walking. I'll tell you, one of the most peaceful things that I find is walking our lakes or walking the Stone Arch Bridge. I do it all the time. And it's a great place to just go walk across the Stone Arch, grab a cup of coffee, and you're going to be just fine. Go to the Astor Cafe or something. I mean, it's just, there's so much to do here. And I think that, tailoring an experience that somebody is going to appreciate, that's probably the one of the biggest steps that we can make right now.
I think not being afraid to, just reach out. You could reach out to me directly, anyone within the organization. To Sarah's point, I think it is all about connecting people. So if it starts with that initial email or phone call, I think that's a perfect place to start. You talk about, facilities and tours as well. That's another thing, people can definitely come down and see our practice facilities. It's one of the best in the league. Certainly you talk about equity, the Minnesota Lynx and the Wolves, we treat those as equals. So they are also share in that same, fantastic space. So, but really, yeah, I think it's just not being afraid to reach out.
Yeah, I think another thing that we can all do is kind of take inventory of what we have to offer as far as, whether it's a connection or a space or whatever, and really think about what value can I add to, an individual or a person or a company that would, be meaningful and impactful. And I think that, again, looking at that inventory and then figuring out how you can make creative connections to kind of further the mission of getting people excited to come downtown.
Yeah, they all said it very well. I would say, I'm appointed by this board. The board is elected by the people. The people are the responsible landowners of this incredible park system, 6,831 acres. So, it's a phone call, it's reaching out. I think the tagline, the best part of it is you. It is, it really is. I love that, because it's about you. And, we are an agency, we are an organization that supports your interests and what you would like to see in our park system. I always look forward to innovations and trends and ideas that change and transform. And so I would say, like everybody here, I think it's really about you and getting out to the spaces and being involved and engaged. And, and it's funny, I will say this one thing. We had this gentleman that came to a board meeting, and he was this older gentleman, probably, 70, and just kind, and he was talking about the tennis courts. He's like, I want more pickleball courts, right? Yes. Pickleball courts, right? And I would say that I played pickleball. I'm a tennis player, but if you've watched competitive pickleball, it's ridiculous. But here was a gentleman, one voice came there, but I already had in plans of putting down more striping and lines and courts. But because of his advocacy, one person, and his passion for pickleball, he was moving, everybody had tears in their eyes, it was like, pickleball, right? And it was amazing. And here we have pickleball courts, whenever we're refurbishing courts across our park system, but it's a powerful thing, one voice, it's powerful. So I always encourage you to reach out and connect with us, and amazing things happen out of that, and everything from free programs for kids to just reanimating or rehabilitating our park system. It's you all. 76%, almost 78% is the taxpayer. That's the lever we pull in the park board. So we're here to serve you. So, yeah.
Well, thank you all so much. That was so well said. We certainly want you to share your experiences that you're having downtown. Use the hashtag #MyMPLSDT so that we can help to amplify those experiences. We know those matter and those are important to incenting and encouraging others to follow your lead. I know we're at time. I do want to be true to our word. We will take one question before we wrap up because I do want to make sure that we do that. And then also remind you that we have a ton of reanimation resources on our website, mplsdowntown.com. We also have the list of the 400 plus restaurant and retailers that are open throughout downtown, Skyway hours updated, as well as kind of creative and things that you can use on your own to kind of help share the messages around the best part is you and see you downtown. So please engage with us that way and reach out anytime. We're all happy to connect. But if there's one question, we'll take it. Oh, two. Maybe we'll take two. Go ahead.
I'm curious about integrating alternative transportation, integrating people back downtown. I think Adam mentioned that parking is a weakness of downtown, if there is a weakness. So I think that at least historically, a strength of downtown has been the transit system. It's a hub and spoke system kind of centered around downtown. And obviously there's been some challenges with scheduling, schedules changing and suspended and things like that. But curious about, Adam, if you've heard any conversations about obviously you can't control metro transit schedules or anything, but if people are interested in spaces that are located in transit corridors or thinking about amenities like bike rooms for offices, things like that, if those conversations are happening, if there's interest in those items?
You're right, everything you said as far as I'm not an expert and I can't control Metro Transit, but I do, yes, as to your idea, there are more and more building owners adding bike rooms, emphasizing that. I can say there is absolutely still a lot of priority put on being on the light rail corridor. Fifth Street Towers remains to be one of the most occupied buildings in the CBD. A lot of that does result from, they have great amenities, but they're on the light rail. And I remember I actually used to lease that building when I did that side of things, and it was one of the things that we emphasized all the time was being on light rail. North Loop Green is going up in the North Loop. One of their points of emphasis is being in the transit hub. I forget the specific number, but I want to say pre-pandemic, and I believe this is on the Chamber of Commerce's, the Minneapolis Regional. I want to say it was 65% of our workforce took public transportation into downtown Minneapolis. That may not change. I think what we have to ask ourselves is, both from a hybrid perspective, how will those bus routes have to change because it is based upon ridership and income, but also will the comfort level of traveling on buses also, return to what it was? I don't know if airplane ridership is an indicative of what, mass transit is. We'll see actually now that the mask requirement is gone, really what that means. But again, as a non-expert here, I think that could be a good gauge as far as where our comfort level is going to lay again with Metro Transit. And I don't think, as of now, and I follow it pretty closely, there are any major significant changes or overhauls to downtown Metro Transit if ridership exists to use it. But it is a very, very important piece and a differentiator between not only the suburbs in Minneapolis, but also the North Loop, which is a very hot market right now, don't get me wrong. And the North Loop has really bad parking, but is also really one of the first sub-markets to emphasize that alternative transportation as far as bike stalls, showers for those who are taking bikes, et cetera, et cetera. So yes.
And the one thing that I will add in our conversation with Metro Transit, we have an HR thought leadership group that we have been convening over the last couple of years, and Metro Transit is a part of that, and they are tracking kind of employee return to layer on additional service, and it takes them, about 3 months to kind of ramp up that service, but they have additional service that will be coming online this June. We'll see some more, and then already planning for that next set. So if there are specific transit route that people are interested in, advocacy is your best friend on that, making sure that Metro Transit is aware of what those routes are. I know they're hearing a lot from the business community right now about express routes, and driver shortage is real, just like we are experiencing with, lots of hospitality industries. But they are on it, so share the routes that are important to you. Did you have one question?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank all of you for your kind, very authentic words today. I'm with DJR Architecture. I'm heading up a kind of new practice area that's focused on landscape urbanism. And one thing, having the privilege of living in Minneapolis, I lived in New York where I started my career for many years, and I also lived in Beijing. We have, coming from Minnesota, I also come from northern Minnesota, we have this excess of nature, right? But we also know that green areas are synonymous with mental health, and also they have a big impact on crime and just in general how we relate to spaces. One thing that I think is one of those, not so much, that we're not talking about is that downtown's a really hardscape space. Everywhere you kind of circulate, the areas that we think of that have green space, there's an issue, right, with plants being this dynamic thing that you can't control and you have to maintain them. But we know from other cities around the world that when you have a park actually as a row of planters, they can even just be spaced fairly widely, that just that single kind of acupuncture move on a street for 3 blocks can radically change the way that those blocks are activated. And I think that's just something I was curious if you guys would talk about or think about, because I think that Minnesota has this thing, right, where we have all of this nature and downtown is kind of the city. And so that's part of the thing that I think is something we notice a lot, is that lack of greenery and sense of scale and intimacy with pedestrian.
I do have a specific, I can't offer the specific detail, but I will tell you this, it is on the radar of developers. My recommendation would be to emphasize to our city council and mayor, very frankly, in order to incorporate the park space you want, it would require certain road closures. I mean, just that how we are designed. I can say this much. I mean, there have been discussions. There may be still ongoing discussions. This is on our city government approving those closures in order to do it. But I can tell you, yes, 100% it is being discussed and is recognized by developers. Look at North Loop Green, for instance. Again, I'll use that going up it. They're going to specifically put a park out there. There has been discussion about it happening in the core. It falls on our government at that point for approvals.
Awesome. Certainly can talk more offline about that, but I do want to be respectful of time. Thank you all so much for joining us. Would love to give our panel a round of applause. They have been insightful. We are grateful for all of you. Thank you for sharing your experiences, your insights, your wisdom. We will keep the conversation going, look for more programs. If you are interested in sticking around for a few minutes and getting a tour of this space, I know Hennepin Theater Trust would love to tour you around and show you this space, so go ahead and meet kind of over by the refreshments, and then we'll depart after this. But thank you so much for coming. Enjoy the rest of your day.